And hello, welcome to this month's Community Wise podcast. I am your host, Holly Long. And as you know, Community Wise podcast is a local podcast for List Greater Kansas City, where we get to talk to some of our friends and community partners in this, the world of community development, the world of just uplifting people. And this month, we have the pleasure to talk to a dear friend of mine who I've known since God knows when. I think we were kids. Who has done something really, really cool around healthy initiatives and healthy foods. And so I would like to introduce you to you all, Chef Shanita McAfee Bryant. Welcome.
Hi.
Woo! If we had claps. So, March is National Nutrition Month,
Yeah.
and everybody's doing all. The American Academy of Nutritionists and Dietitians are encouraging people to eat healthier and to participate in physical activities and things of that nature. And as well as that's well and good if you have access to those things, right? And of
Right.
course, a lot of our communities, and I say ours, meaning the ones that we represent and the ones that we particularly work in as LISC and as what you are doing now, we have a different perspective on healthy initiatives in National Food
Yes.
Month. So,
Yes.
if you don't mind telling us about the Prospect Urban Eatery and what you all are doing, and I think that will segue us into this whole healthy initiative, healthy foods,
Healthy
national
you
healthy you.
situation.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So, you know, I think as an advocate, like we love when there are national empowerment months, and that's what we're going to call this, right?
Right, right.
But the thing for us that really drills down is when there's policy, right? So it's wonderful to encourage people to eat healthier, to move their bodies, to do all of these things. But the government needs to go a step further and assess the policies that create environments that make it difficult for people to eat healthy, to move their bodies, to have good mental awareness. So the Prospect, new name, this is, we haven't talked, so we're just the Prospect KC now. We
Oh,
actually, because I got the idea pre-pandemic, and then COVID happened, and I don't want to say we pivoted, but we pivoted a lot.
everybody
So
had or two, right?
we pivoted a
It's a life
lot,
skill.
but on right, pivoting is definitely now an essential skill. You got to know how to do it
You
to
got
be
to.
successful.
Yes.
But what we have done is COVID has changed the way that you look at food, the way that you look at eating, the way that you look at access, the way that you look at the makeups of the community, and also changed the way that people do business, right? You know, gone are the days where you want to go sit in a dining room in a restaurant of 200 and some odd people. We're all like, do you have an outside patio? Like, outside eating, where are the windows? Is it smaller? Everybody's looking for something smaller. And when we look at the community that we want to be in, we've decided that perhaps that's not the best approach, right? To have a larger space. So what we have done is now we are curating smaller spaces. And the other reason for the smaller spaces is that we learned that we wanted to be in the hospitality space. Like, right, when I got this idea, I was like, it's going to be a culinary workforce development program. I am going to train people. They're going to go and be in the kitchen. They're going to be line cooks. They're going to be whatever they want to be. And then we're also going to support them with wraparound services. Well, hospitality is struggling.
Yes.
And it's very, what I've learned is that you've got to have a living wage, right?
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of level one or entry level restaurant food jobs that can support someone being able to support themselves. The market's just not there for that. So we had to go back to the drawing board. So what the Prospect is doing, we're going just Prospect KC. We're in the works of opening one of 3 locations. The first one is in the 2000 Vine building, currently under construction. There's some issues with our floor right now. you know, that's all we'll say about that.
Right.
And then the second would be a cafeteria type space at the original Wendell Phillips Elementary School on 24th and Vine.
Yes.
And then the third would be a food manufacturing and food production kitchen that's going to go in the basement of the Boom Theater on 18th and Vine.
Oh, wow.
So essentially, that allows us to activate Vine so that Vine Street is got movement, right? Our students are here, they're walking down there, they're working up here. It also allows us to become the employer as in addition to the trainer. So what we will be able to do now is offer what we're calling like an externship. If you love this work and you want to stay on with us, you can stay on, and then you can move on to these other spaces. So that I can explain all the different why. You know, at 2000 Vine, we're really focusing on food access, nutritional literacy, and workforce development there. Yeah. The access piece is a small grocery store. You know, it makes no sense to me, hence my sweater. It says,
let's see it.
It's not a food desert, it's food apartheid. It's a system.
That's
you know.
Yes.
When you know, I think that the powers that be like to use the word desert for the very same reason that when they show pictures of the civil rights movement, they show them in black and white. Our parents were born during that time frame. Absolutely. And you know good and well there was colored film.
Absolutely.
Okay? And the reason they use black and white is because it gives your mind the perception that was a long time ago. Those pictures were in black and white. No, it's the same thing as why they use the word desert. When they use the word desert, to you that feels hopeless. It's like, oh man, desert. What could you possibly do about a desert?
Right.
But the thing that we have to understand is that deserts are naturally occurring, right? You and I are not going to get off this podcast and be like, girl, okay, so let's find a spot to put our next desert. Like, we can't just come up with one.
No.
It's a natural occurrence. So to call someone a food desert gives the it implies. I haven't had a lot of, I'm trying to cut back on coffee, which means my brain and mouth are not working.
Yes.
It implies that there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. This just happened. These areas are not food deserts because they just decided to become food deserts. It's a system that is designed and is quite frankly working the way it was designed. So that goes all the way back to why I said it's wonderful for this to be National whatever awareness month or National Heart Month, National Diabetes Month. All of those are great. However, have we addressed the policies that have created the need for this to be some type of a food or health awareness month? So that's the kind of thing that we're working on. You know, it feels hard, it feels large, but I feel like that the way that we activate Vine, if we could get that community, the 3rd district behind us, then it could be like an internal out type of change, you know. I've kind of given up on trying to bring the powers that be along with me. I'm like, look, I can do this, and then you come to me afterwards, after I've already shown you that I know how to do it, and you know I'm super competitive, so I don't, I'm not out here trying to fail. So yeah.
Let's talk about food insecurity, and particularly in BIPOC communities, and let's talk about that apartheid. And it's intentional, it's systemic. It's why do you think that it is? Well, I pretty much know your answer, but explain to our viewers, why do you think? And you could be as honest as you want.
Okay, how frank can I be here?
You can be very frank. We are a frank audience.
Okay.
We are moving towards more inclusion in our community development, and you know that's something Liz stands behind. So here you go, call it out. Why?
It is this way because well-meaning people, and initially they were well-meaning, are controlling the landscape of food, right? There is the powers that be, particularly Caucasian people, have decided what people should eat, when people should eat it, how they should eat it. And that's how all food policy, all food initiatives have a very colonial type lens, right? We don't take into account the cultural dynamics that come within food policy. What I need in my diet is not what a Native American in Alaska needs, right? That is two
Very
totally
different.
different communities, two totally different environments, and you cannot broad stroke us with a very broad lens. And so they really kind of have a chokehold on what people can eat. And when you're looking and when you look at policy in urban communities, in my opinion, they treat food like a luxury item and not a human right. Like it's a luxury because when you look at accessing a grocery store, you live in Lee Summit. I just moved from Overland Park, right? They're not like, Holly, we are so sorry that you built your house in this new development way out here in the middle of nowhere. You all need to grow your own food.
Right.
That no, they're like, in order for these people to survive, we've got to put in grocery stores and
Multiple.
multiple grocery stores. They can't be inconvenienced in order to get their food. When you look at urban areas, they say they should just grow their own food. Let's teach people how to turn their front yards into gardens. Why? Why? We both have small kids. Why do I want my children running in the front yard, not in the yard playing, and now it's a garden? We have to eat off of it. That's not a solution for everybody, but it seems to be the only thing that that is suggested when you're looking at the BIPOC community. They need to learn how to grow their own food. That takes us back to where we were.
Yes.
Right?
A couple of hundred centuries ago.
When we were growing food, not for ourselves, but for other people.
Right.
You see what I mean?
Right. And I am making a connection of what it was like in that era where, you know, unfortunately, blacks could not eat high on the hog, as they say. You know,
right?
That's why we learn how to cook with salt pork, you know,
right.
and bacon fat, all that kind of stuff. That's
right.
You know, soul food cuisine that is not necessarily the healthiest
right.
for us.
So then let's take that a step further.
Yes.
So now what have they done with that cultural food? Amongst the cultural foods, whose food is deemed unhealthy?
Absolutely.
You shouldn't have it.
Absolutely.
It contributes to your bad diet.
Yes.
I mean, other cultures can literally eat chocolate covered bugs, and we're like, that's so exotic. It's street food. But then when we look at African American food culture, it's not good for you.
Yeah.
It's poor food.
Yeah.
It's salty. This is why you have diabetes. This is why you have high blood pressure. This is why you have that doesn't happen to any other cultural food. I don't hear people saying that Indian food is bad for you. I don't hear people saying that Chinese food is bad for you. That is a cultural food, right?
Yeah. Right. Right.
So that's why we're in this state, and until we I'm all about now at this point calling the thing. Like we can't be like, I don't know how we got here. It was very intentional. Redlining contributed to
Absolutely.
the lack of grocery stores. Desegregation.
Absolutely.
Contributed to the lack of community development in urban areas. It's all a big play. And so now it was to devalue the land, devalue the community, and come back, right? Now that we've devalued this community and come back and rebuild it for pennies on the dollar when it could have stayed and been a thriving community on the onset.
Right. Whew, you got your hands full.
It's complex.
It is very complex.
This is why you have to have a whole person approach, right? All of the traditional systems and the traditional models say, I'm just going to deal with houselessness. I'm just going to deal with mental illness. I'm just going to deal with drug and alcohol abuse. It's a stool, right? You can't just say, when you're looking in the underserved and under-resourced community, I'm just going to deal with one of their problems, and that's going to, somehow create economic mobility within that family system. No, you have to address all of the things.
Yeah.
When you're looking at workforce development, you have to address all of the things. What we learned in COVID is they said 13%. Honestly, I think it's more than that. 13% of people who are food workers are food insecure. Now imagine working around food
and not being able.
And that is your pressure point in your life. That is the thing that stresses you the most, is that you're not sure how you're going to feed your family. And then people say things like to me, well, why don't people just eat at work? Well, I'm a farmer in Nevada. So am I just getting the zucchini out the ground and I'm going to eat that? Like what do you assume that I'm eating at work? Or I milk cows. What am I just drinking
Milk.
raw cow milk?
Yeah.
Like you eat at work is not always an option for people. And
Right.
again, that goes back to that whole mentality of like, well, it's easy for me, it should be easy for everybody else.
So we like to talk about like the social determinants of health. I think it's five social determinants
Hmm.
of health, and a lot of our work at LIST is based off of those and how we see the world holistically and how everything is interconnected. And so when you think about like food insecurity, how it plays into housing instability, how it plays into unemployment, how it plays into your health as far as your physical, emotional, spiritual health being, it all comes into play. And as someone who is an advocate for those who are facing job insecurity, food insecurity, home insecurity, or housing insecurity, um, besides what you are doing on Vine, what other, if you could pick, what other methods or what other things could we put in place as a society to help us move forward um, and truly be an inclusive society for all, right? And here's the caveat to that. I also want you to touch on our rural population. And that's a huge misconception to a lot of people. And I know we're going to talk about that, but I just want to plug that in there too. Okay, go ahead.
Uh, so if the one thing that we are going to try is to address the mentality, right? It's not a physicality, right? People think that the way that you solve houselessness is that you put people in in homes. But if I'm used to a state of chaos and instability, you can't just say here's a house. You got to fix this first before I'm ready to take on the responsibility
Right.
of a home. If you're saying, Shanita, your diet is bad, I'm gonna give you some fruits and vegetables, and that's gonna solve it. Nope, you're gonna have to get into this brain of mine and teach me how that food is medicine and how I can incorporate that into my body and how that food being medicine can help me mitigate this chronic disease. Not cure, because I'm not a medical doctor. We're going to say mitigate the symptoms of all this chronic disease because I'm eating and treating my body better. That's a mental place. So what this current system is about solving treating the symptom and not treating the issue. In all of these areas, we have to treat the issue, and the root of that is the mind. If we don't change people's thinking, you're never going to change people's behavior. It doesn't matter how many jobs, houses, how many boxes of produce I give them, how many classes. I got to change that mind before I can do anything any further. And then when you look at rural, people have to stop treating food insecurity as a monolith. Like
Monolithic. Yeah.
everybody's food insecurity is the same. The issues in rural parts of Kansas and Missouri are not the same as in urban parts of Kansas City and Missouri. There's similarities, but they're super duper nuanced. And so, no, they don't have the same, both are not having the same access to grocery stores and fresh fruits and vegetables. But it's a different type of person that you're dealing with. So again, you got to look at the person and come up with a solution for the person, not just be like, everyone who's food insecure, this is what we're gonna do.
Right.
That does not work. That does not work.
Right. When you talk about food as medicine, right? I can honestly say, um, we grew up in the 80s, right? So McDonald's, we had Hamburger Helper.
No, y'all had Hamburger Helper.
Oh,
I'm not a part
yeah.
of that.
Yeah, I had Hamburger Helper, one of
No,
four.
ma'am.
Yeah, you definitely didn't.
No, ma'am.
Just
You already know.
stuff like that, right? And now those 80s babies are now parents. And my dad thinks it's hilarious how I treat my children versus how I was treated as a child. Like, it's ridiculous when your kids think McDonald's is a luxury because their mom, and well, their mom, not necessarily their dad, refuses to purchase McDonald's for them. Why am I feeding you this? This is crap. I'm not doing that, you know? Um, but it also plays into this systemic issue that we have, a bigger issue. If you take them to a Chick-fil-A, I'm not going to say nothing personally against Chick-fil-A and their policies and things that they do and things that they believe, but for the sake of this conversation, we're going to talk about the chicken, okay? The price difference is crazy.
Right, but we can use Chick-fil-A as a good euphemism, right? People don't, Chick-fil-A's are franchises,
Yes.
okay? So just because John Schumacher, who
Uh-huh.
created a franchise, thinks
Yes.
a certain way,
Yeah.
does not mean that every single franchise thinks
Absolutely.
that way. We can
Absolutely.
apply that to food policy. Just because me
Absolutely.
at the government, I feel like everyone should have peanut butter, milk, rice, and cereal, does not mean that each community needs peanut butter, rice, milk, and cereal.
Absolutely.
And we have to go into that we've got to be like, nope, what is necessary in a, if the area is a more refugee population, what do those diets need to look like? Same thing. And then let's talk about your 80s parents. Look at the lifestyle, right? That was necessary to sustain.
Yeah.
In that time frame, the focus was upward mobility, right? We have to
Absolutely.
get out of the ghetto. We have to
Move to
provide
the
a better life for
suburbs.
our children,
Go to private school.
which means in order to sustain that, both parents need to be working.
Absolutely.
You're also being told your kids are going to be behind if they don't do swim lessons,
Yep.
and if they're not playing football at 3.2 years old, and if they're not, all of that costs money, which means both parents need to be working.
Yes.
And then all of that takes up time. And so now the people are juggling, all right, I've got to work, 8-10 hours a day. I've got to get people to act this, that, and the third activities. I have to be an upstating citizen and community
Right.
member,
Right.
and I need to serve on your board and your board and your board,
Right.
and I need to cook dinner and have a meal with my family. How do I manage to do all of that in the 16, 17 hours a day that I'm awake?
Right.
Something's got to give. And so convenience products, food, and honestly, if you go back and look at marketing from the like 50s, 60s on, that's how it was marketed. Like, make it easier for yourself. Cut down on your time in the kitchen. It was
Right.
marketed as a convenience product.
Right.
But as the demand grew, the processes got, the processed food of the 50s and the processed food of 2022 are like,
Yeah, night and day.
I don't even know if that's processed. That's less processed than what we eat. So it's all, but again, people have to look at all of those little things, and there's contributing factors that get people to where they are. No one just wakes up and is like, I'm not going to cook any food for my kids and I don't care how they eat. It's, you're trying to do the best that you can with what's available, like going back to this food apartheid. No person is like, I would like to do my grocery shopping at the corner gas station.
Absolutely not.
But that's what's available, so I'm going to have to make the best choices that I possibly can make at this corner gas station. Because that's all that's available to me.
Yeah. And let's talk a little bit more food is medicine and the physical activity of it, right? In neighborhoods, and this is something that LISC has done, help with sidewalk rebuilding, and they call them pocket parks and all these other places to make some of our urban residents, our urban neighborhoods a little more livable, where you can actually walk up and down without running into huge craters or potholes or abandoned buildings, and it's not safe. Making little gardens or little parks out of that. What do you think about systemically those issues that urban areas, we have to do a little more work in urban areas than versus like a suburb area of like Lee Summit or Overland Park? What are your thoughts
Right.
along those? And
If you're not going to address crime, There's no point in putting a park in. Okay. I moved back to the city from Johnson County. And what I know is that the Johnson County Parks and Recs has a whole park security system, right? You're not going to be at that park, that brand new park that they just built on 91st and all at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night doing
Right.
foolish things. Park security is coming through there. So if we're not going to secure those spaces so that families feel safe, then what's the point? And we can't pick and choose the parks that we secure. There's a park off the plaza that's super secure, but then there's a park not too far from me
Yeah.
that you're kind of like, I don't know if I'm going there in the evening.
Right.
It might not.
Is this the park that used to be popping on Sundays?
Right. But again, you have to address the policy. It's like they think of one thing, but they don't think of the other thing. They're like,
all interconnected.
right. They're like, people need to get outside and play. Okay, we're gonna fix their sidewalks, and we're going to, spruce up the park. Oh, well, shoot. I guess we didn't think about the fact that people are sleeping in the park. People are fighting. There's all these things going on in the park. Or, man, the cars really speed down that street. Perhaps we should put some speed bumps in, because if you're going to walk from down to the park on 97th Street, there's speed bumps and police all over. Like, you're not going to be speeding through that neighborhood trying to get to that. So, because they know people are walking and trying to get to the park. There's, to cross Knoll, they put this, like, girl, it's so obscene. The freaking flashers when people are in the crosswalk will blind you, okay? Like when you're driving on like a out-of-town trip and you go under those overpasses and all the lights are shot. It's like that. We're not doing that same thing here in the city. So, like, where do you got to think of all of the things. You can't just be like, oh, put a park in.
Yeah, let's solve one problem.
Because honestly, people don't need a park to go outside and play. People don't need the park to be fancy they need to be safe walking to and fro, because a lot of people still don't have cars. They're still relying on public transportation and buses. And then they need to feel safe at the public play area.
All right. I know we're over our time. Any concluding thoughts on healthy food initiatives in the city or in the metropolitan area of Kansas City? Anything you want to highlight personally from Prospect KC? Any of your initiatives? Yeah.
No, I have a wish list for Kansas City. If anybody in city government is listening, I would really like for them to create a food policy position at the city level. I think that we need someone that has a direct connection to the advocacy that we're doing on the street and to the city council and the policymakers. There needs to be something to connect those people so that they get all the information and so that we have somebody that we can go to make sure that they get the information. That would be my wish.
That is a dope wish. It's realistic. It's needed. So
yes.
Hopefully someone is listening.
If you're listening, you need a food policy position in the city.
Right.
And no, I don't want to fill that position. I'm busy enough. You need to find someone else. We need a food policy position in the city.
Well, what are your hopes other than a food policy position for the city, like for the region? What are your hopes in addressing food insecurities? Where are we going? Where do you want to see us in 10 years from now?
10 years from now, I do not want to see us still having this same conversation. I would like to see more big box grocery stores in the 3rd and the 5th district. I specifically, I want us to not be having the conversation that says that people don't spend money at the grocery stores and there's no money to be made. I want us to stop with that. That's a simple thing. Like, let's just stop saying that it's not, people don't want to spend their money there, and figure out a way to invite the development so that people can have access to the grocery store. People shouldn't have to go 10, 15 miles to get groceries.
Especially if they don't have transportation.
Girl, could you imagine trying to get groceries with our 2 munchkins on a bus?
Nope.
We would be at the gas station on the corner. Okay?
Absolutely. I mean, and when I think about it, when it takes me back to being in school in DC, in college at Howard, and they're Howard's in the middle of the hood of the DC, heart of
Yes.
DC. I mean, granted, now it's being super gentrified. um,
It is, but like when you went to college, it was not, there
it
was
was
no grocery stores near there either.
you literally had to walk, and that's why they had the little baskets, and that's why people stole baskets from supermarkets and pushed them down to campus so they could get their groceries. Other than that, people were eating out. So
Yeah.
we have work to do, and we're here.
Lots. Lots.
Well, it has been a pleasure talking to you, my friend. Thank
Thank
you so
you.
much for the work and the advocacy that you do on behalf of the Kansas City region, on behalf of all the little people, and I say little people as in the younger generation looking up to you and
Yeah.
using you as a guide of this is what I should do as far as healthy eating and being an advocate for food and getting people, i.e., me, to try stuff outside of their their norm.
Right.
We appreciate you, and anything that we can do to help further your mission, let us know. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.